Coaches, I have a screencast for you today on level 1 constraints. Level 1 constraints build skill, and this screencast builds upon the first video, which was on constraint-based training session designs. Okay, let's look at the goal of level 1 constraints. Level 1 constraints build skill, and they do this by destabilizing the athlete's old ways of moving. Level 1 constraints amplify feedback, and they also invite new movement solutions. Now, any athlete engaging in a level 1 constraint has to embrace the cognitive stage of motor learning. That is, they need to be willing to explore, discover, and adapt. They need to be willing to make mistakes and take their time. Things are going to be slow and clunky. I've created a mnemonic to help coaches understand the core components of level 1 constraints. And that is that a level 1 constraint should aid the athlete. A for amplify feedback, I for invite solutions, and then D for destabilize. So amplify feedback, a level 1 constraint should speak for itself. So just by virtue of using the constraint, the coach should be able to step back while the athlete on every single rep, and almost like every single second of every single rep, is getting all of this inherent feedback from the activity. And they know that they're doing certain things well, or that they need to do other things differently. And the reason why that feedback is amplified is because the nature of the constraint. So some constraints don't amplify feedback much, and others amplify a lot. So it's kind of a sliding scale. Level 1 constraints need to also invite new solutions. And the reason why they invite new solutions is because they need to destabilize the athlete. So an athlete who's destabilized is basically presented with the constraint that has a particular goal to it, and there's no way for the athlete to reach the goal of this constraint activity that the coach has set up for them if they use their old movement solutions. So by virtue of being destabilized, new movement solutions are explored. Let's take a look at an example of a level 1 constraint called cat whiskers. Here's the learning outcome we can work with. Julia will be able to describe how she keeps the cat whiskers steady and how this changes her experience of the shot cycle after using cat whiskers for 15 minutes with body and band. Now, cat whiskers, for those of you that aren't familiar, picture 2 dowels, one on the front of your waist and one in the back. You can see it in the picture here. And they're connected by stretch bands out here. Those dowels are 4 feet long each. So here's, in the text here on the slide, this is what I might say to an athlete. I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. Use your body or a band, your choice, autonomy support there, to go through the shot cycle while exploring how to keep the cat whiskers aligned with, you could say, toes, or you could put another dowel on the ground and say, keep your cat whiskers aligned with the dowel on the ground. So then you set the athlete to task of exploring for those 5 minutes. And at the end, you can see in these photos, hope they're big enough for you, that in the before photo, during setup, she was really rotating that lower body quite a bit with the upper body. And then in the after photo, she has figured out how to keep those dowels completely steady. And I never, as the coach, I did not have to explain to her how to do that. I got into absolutely no details. I had her just explore. She describes it to me at the end, and now the learning has become really sticky. So, did this level 1 constraint aid? Did it amplify feedback? Yes, those dowels are long. Any turning of them is sensed through the body, and it's visual as well. So feedback amplified. She does not need me telling her that her upper body or her lower body was turning. Does it invite new solutions? Absolutely, because it destabilized the athlete, and the learning objective was met. Let's take a look at another example. This is the tap connection ball that I use to help athletes moving from set to set up. So here's a potential learning outcome. Ben will be able to achieve skeletal alignment at the end of setup using a stretch band And Ben will be able to do this by the end of class after exploring the tap connection ball for 15 minutes with and without a band. So here's what I might say to them. Ben, gently hold this ball between your wrist and your torso while in set position. Explore reps of set through set up by rolling the ball up to the barcode. That was a cue that I use with athletes sometimes right here. And then aligning the stars. And that's the cue maybe that I used with this athlete to get their skeleton into alignment. Keep the ball near the barcode zone. And do you want to explore this for 3 minutes or 5 minutes? And do you want to use a body or a band? So you can see that I'm throwing in some autonomy support there as well. So let's take a look here. All right, here's a before video. Or sorry, it's not really a before video, but you can see how this is done. This is a manipulation of task.
Okay. How about
okay?
Here.
And in some ways, I guess you could say we're constraining the athlete as well, because we're also, by virtue of constraining of manipulating the task, we've constrained the athlete's range of motion. So in this video, if I recall correctly, the coach had been letting this athlete explore set to set up with the ball for at least 10 minutes and is now asking some questions. And let's take a look here. Here was the outcome. Suddenly, the athlete is able to keep their draw side elbow in line with the stretch band, something that they don't even need to know is a goal, but something that they will likely describe after they have used the ball. And look how well they're establishing skeletal alignment. Towards the end of this video here, the athlete also discovers back tension.
So that's what I want to feel, right? I feel it right here. That.
They're pointing out where they feel it, and they hadn't felt it there to that point.
That's a concept that we have, which is
great. All right. So, in that, did this level 1 constraint aid the athlete? That is, did it amplify feedback? Yes. Did it invite new solutions, and did it destabilize? Absolutely. And the learning objectives were met. I have a few reflection questions for you here. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video, answer the questions for yourself, and I'll go through them right now. So for the first one, the coach needs to make sure they set up a space and time for the athletes to explore within and to take risks within. And that means there needs to be a culture that's safe for making mistakes and not focused on outcome, but really focused on the process of learning. The goal of level 1 constraints is to build skill. 3 guiding principles is the aid. So we have amplify feedback, invite new movement solutions, and also destabilize old behavior patterns. What constraint categories can be manipulated? Well, we've got task, athlete, and environment. And in the examples we saw mostly task being manipulated. What stage of motor learning for level 1 constraints? And the answer is that's going to be the cognitive stage. I hope this screencast was helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out.